What if I told you that some of the most profitable plants in America, one worth over $10,000 a single pound, are growing wild right now? And most growers have no idea they're sitting on a gold mine. I spent weeks going through thousands of real comments on the most popular plant profit videos. And one thing kept coming up that nobody was addressing: the real zones, the real numbers, and the real steps to actually get started. Now I'm not going to do what most of these plant profit videos do: throw big numbers at you and hope you don't ask questions. When I say $20 per pound dried, that's a lot of plant material. But here's why the math still works. Most of these sell by the ounce at farmers' markets, and a single raised bed can produce multiple harvests per season. And by the time we get to number 20, I'll show you exactly how to turn any of these into real income. Even if you've never sold a single plant, hit subscribe so you don't miss a single one. Number 1. Moringa, also known as the miracle tree that prints money. If you're in zones 9 through 10, this one's practically effortless. And if you're in zone 8, you can still grow it as an annual. Now here's what most people don't realize about Moringa. This tree has been used for thousands of years across Africa and Southeast Asia. But American farmers, most of them have never even heard of it. And that's exactly where the opportunity is. Dried Moringa leaf powder sells for $20 to $40 per pound. And the market: health food stores, smoothie shops, online wellness brands, they cannot get enough of it. One mature Moringa tree can produce several harvests per season. The leaves grow back fast. We're talking weeks, not months. So your first tree doesn't just give you one payday. It gives you a recurring income stream that keeps producing as long as the sun keeps shining. Think of it as a money printer that runs on sunlight and water. If you thought Moringa was easy on your back, wait until you see number 2. No digging required whatsoever. I teased this earlier. Duckweed, the pond scum NASA studied. Now before you scroll past, NASA actually researched this tiny floating plant as a potential food source for long-duration space missions. It's one of the fastest growing plants on Earth. And here's the best part. If you're in any zone, you can grow this. A kiddie pool, a stock tank, even a bathtub. That's all you need. Duckweed is packed with protein, more protein per acre than soybeans. And dried duckweed powder sells for $20 to $60 per pound. The buyers: aquaculture farms, animal feed companies, and increasingly, health food brands looking for sustainable plant protein. Here's what makes this one special. It doubles its biomass every 2 to 3 days. So your first harvest, that's your seed stock for every harvest after. You're not buying more. You're multiplying what you already have. Think of it as a protein factory that fits in your garage and never stops producing. Moving from the water back to the soil, number 3 is an absolute dream if you want to plant something once and never bend over to seed it again. Meet Lovage, the chef's secret ingredient. If you're in zones 3 through 9, this is one of the easiest perennials you'll ever grow. Plant it once, harvest for years. Lovage tastes like a more intense version of celery, but with this deep, almost buttery complexity that chefs absolutely love. And here's the thing. Almost no one grows it commercially in the United States. Fresh Lovage sells for $15 to $30 per pound at specialty markets, and dried even more. The market is high-end restaurants, farm-to-table chefs, and European grocery stores that can never find a reliable local source. This plant grows tall. We're talking 4 to 6 feet. One single plant produces pounds of harvestable leaves and stems per season, and it comes back every single year, without replanting, without reseeding, without you doing much of anything. Think of it as celery's wealthy European cousin that nobody invited to the party yet. Number 4. Culantro. And no, that's not a typo. Culantro, not cilantro. If you're in zones 8 through 11, you're in the sweet spot for this one. Culantro sells for $15 to $30 per pound, and the demand is massive. Caribbean communities, Vietnamese restaurants, Thai grocery stores, they all use culantro as a staple herb. And in most American cities, they can't find it fresh. So why doesn't anyone grow it? Because most American farmers don't even know it exists. It's one of those herbs that's been hiding in plain sight, used by millions of people worldwide, but completely overlooked by the domestic growing market. The leaves are long, serrated, and have a flavor 10 times stronger than cilantro. A little goes a long way, which means your customers keep coming back. Think of it as cilantro's bolder, more profitable twin that the American market forgot about. Number 5. Shiso, the Japanese herb going mainstream. If you're in zones 6 through 9, Shiso grows like a weed, literally. And here's why the timing on this one is perfect. Japanese restaurants are opening everywhere across the US right now. Ramen shops, sushi bars, izakayas, and every single one of them needs fresh shiso leaves. This herb has been a staple in Japanese cuisine for centuries. But in America, it's just now hitting mainstream awareness. And that means growers who get in early have first mover advantage. Fresh shiso sells for $20 to $50 per pound. And it's not just restaurants anymore. Craft cocktail bars are using it. Health food stores are stocking it. Even home cooks are discovering it through social media. One plant can produce hundreds of leaves per season, and it reseeds itself. So next year, you've got even more without spending a dime. Think of it as the herb equivalent of getting into a hot stock before everyone else finds out. Number 6. Epazote, the Mexican herb nobody grows. Zones 7B through 10. And this one practically grows itself. Epazote is essential in traditional Mexican cooking. Black beans without epazote, that's like pasta without sauce. But here's the problem. Almost no American farmer grows it commercially. Meanwhile, Mexican grocery stores and restaurants across the country are importing dried epazote from Mexico, paying $12 to $25 per pound, when someone down the road could be growing it fresh. That gap between demand and supply, that's your opportunity. It's low maintenance, drought tolerant, and reseeds aggressively. One planting and you're set. Think of it as the herb that sells itself to a market nobody else is serving. Number 7. Purslane, the weed worth more than spinach. And if you're in, well, any zone, congratulations. Purslane probably already grows in your yard. You might have been pulling it out and throwing it away. Here's what most people don't know. Purslane has more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy green on the planet. More than spinach, more than kale, and nutritionists are starting to take notice. Fresh purslane sells for $15 to $30 per pound at farmers' markets and health food stores. And the demand is growing fast as the superfood movement catches on. The best part? You don't plant purslane. You just stop killing it. Let it grow. Harvest it and sell it. It's prolific. It's nutritious. And it's the ultimate zero-cost crop. Think of it as the most profitable weed you've ever had the pleasure of not pulling. And speaking of purslane profits, when I connected with a small grower in Tennessee who'd been quietly making $2,000 a month from half an acre of purslane, selling to Asian grocery stores in Nashville, I knew I had to share this. No fancy setup, no expensive equipment, just the right plant, in the right market. That zero-effort approach is exactly what the next group of plants is all about. Starting with a native plant that practically takes care of itself. Number 8. Yaupon holly, America's only native caffeine plant. If you're in zones 7 through 9, this one might already be growing in your neighborhood. Now let me tell you something that blows people's minds. For centuries, Native Americans brewed Yaupon holly into a ceremonial drink called black drink. It was so important to their culture that European colonists actually tried to suppress it because they wanted to sell their own imported tea. Think about that. America's only native caffeine plant, deliberately erased from history so someone else could profit. Well, it's coming back, and the specialty tea market cannot get enough of it. Dried Yaupon leaves sell for $30 to $70 per pound. Craft tea companies, wellness brands, and local coffee shops are all looking for American-grown caffeine alternatives. The plant is evergreen, drought-tolerant, and produces year after year without replanting. It's one of the lowest maintenance crops on this entire list. Think of it as America's forgotten coffee that the land never actually forgot. Number 9. Mexican tarragon, the herb that grows where French tarragon won't. If you're in zones 8 through 11, you already know French tarragon struggles in heat and humidity. It bolts. It wilts. It gives up. Mexican tarragon. It thrives in that same heat. And here's the thing. It tastes almost identical to French tarragon. Chefs can barely tell the difference. But you can grow it in climates where the French variety simply refuses to cooperate. That means every high-end restaurant in the South, Southwest, and Gulf states that wants fresh tarragon has to come to you. Premium pricing, limited competition, and a plant that practically begs to grow in hot weather. Think of it as the understudy that outperforms the star, and nobody realized it yet. Number 10. Lemon balm, the stress relief herb. Zones 4 through 9. And this one spreads so aggressively, you'll have more than you know what to do with. Which is exactly what you want when you're selling it. Here's why the timing is perfect. We're living through what health experts are calling a stress epidemic. And lemon balm has been traditionally used for centuries as a calming tea herb. The wellness market is booming right now. And lemon balm is riding that wave. Dried lemon balm sells for $20 to $40 per pound. And the buyers are everywhere. Tea companies, herbal supplement brands, aromatherapy producers, and direct-to-consumer through platforms like Etsy. One patch of lemon balm can produce multiple cuts per season. It comes back every year, and it actually gets more productive as it matures. The biggest challenge with lemon balm isn't growing it, it's keeping it from taking over your entire garden. Think of it as nature's chill pill that pays you back with every harvest. While lemon balm takes care of stress, this next one takes care of your wallet with surprisingly little maintenance. Number 11. Ashwagandha, the supplement industry's darling. If you're in zones 8 through 12, ashwagandha grows as a perennial. Zones 3 through 7, you can still grow it as an annual. Either way, it works. Now here's a number that should get your attention. The global ashwagandha market is worth over $1 billion. And right now, almost all of it is imported from India. That means every single pound grown domestically has a built-in advantage. Shorter supply chains, fresher product, and the locally grown label that American consumers are willing to pay a premium for. Dried ashwagandha root sells for $25 to $60 per pound. Supplement companies, herbal apothecaries, and wellness brands, they're all looking for domestic sources. The plant itself is surprisingly easy, drought-tolerant, doesn't need much fertilizer, and the roots are ready to harvest in about 150 days. Think of it as growing the supplement aisle's bestseller, right in your backyard. Number 12. Hyssop, the forgotten tea herb, zones 4 through 9. And this plant has been around longer than most civilizations. Hyssop is mentioned in ancient texts going back thousands of years. It was one of the purification herbs of the ancient world. And yet, walk into any American garden center and try to find it. Good luck. That's what makes this one such a hidden gem. Hyssop has a beautiful minty, slightly anise flavor that tea blenders absolutely love. Dried hyssop sells for $20 to $35 per pound. The market. Specialty tea companies, herbalists, and increasingly craft cocktail bars looking for unique botanical flavors. It's a perennial that attracts pollinators like crazy. So while it's making you money, it's also making your entire garden more productive. 2 benefits for the price of 1. Think of it as an ancient herb with a very modern price tag. Number 13. Tulsi, also known as holy basil, and I call it the holy basil goldmine. If you're in zones 10 through 11, Tulsi grows as a perennial. Everywhere else, grow it as an annual, and it still produces abundantly in a single season. Now Tulsi is considered sacred in Hindu tradition. It's been revered for thousands of years as a plant of spiritual and physical wellness. And here's what's fascinating. That spiritual significance hasn't stopped it from becoming one of the hottest commercial herbs in America. Tulsi tea is everywhere now, and dried Tulsi sells for $20 to $45 per pound. This plant proves something important. Spiritual value and commercial value are not mutually exclusive. The same herb that people grow for its deeper meaning can also put real money in your pocket. It grows fast, produces multiple harvests, and the aroma alone will make your garden feel like something special. Think of it as sacred ground that also happens to be profitable ground. Speaking of herbs that give you multiple ways to win. Number 14. Catnip. And trust me, this one is not just for cats. Zones 3 through 9. Catnip grows almost anywhere. It's a member of the mint family, and it's just as aggressive. Now here's what most people miss. Yes, the pet industry buys catnip, and that's a billions-dollar market all by itself. But that's just the beginning. Dried catnip also sells as an herbal tea ingredient. It's been traditionally used as a calming, sleep-supporting herb for humans, not just felines. The herbal tea market and pet market combined means you've got two completely separate revenue streams from the same plant. Dried catnip sells for $30 to $60 per pound, and finding buyers is almost too easy. Pet stores, online marketplaces, tea companies, and herbalists. One planting and it spreads on its own, year after year. Think of it as the only crop where your customers include both humans and their pets. And since we're talking about unexpected opportunities, my neighbor started growing calendula last spring with zero farming experience. Within 6 months, a local skincare company reached out and started buying everything produced. That's the kind of opportunity sitting in your backyard right now. You just need to know which plants have that kind of demand. And speaking of calendula, number 15, calendula, the skincare industry's secret weapon. Remember my neighbor I just told you about? The one who started with zero experience and had a skincare company buying everything within 6 months. This is the plant. If you're in zones 2 through 10, that's nearly everywhere in the continental United States. Calendula is one of the most zone-flexible plants on this entire list. And the skincare industry, they cannot get enough of it. Salves, balms, oils, soaps. Calendula is the base ingredient in thousands of natural beauty products. Dried calendula petals sell for $20 to $50 per pound. And here's the beautiful part. The buyers come to you once they know you grow it. Small batch skincare brands, soap makers, herbalists, and even wedding florists who want those gorgeous golden flowers. The plant blooms continuously. Pick the flowers, they grow back. Pick again, they grow back again, all season long. Think of it as liquid gold that just happens to grow in flower form. Number 16, Fenugreek, the culinary and wellness dual threat. If you're in zones 6 through 9, Fenugreek is an easy annual that produces both harvestable leaves and seeds. And that's the key word, both. The leaves, called methi, are essential in Indian and Middle Eastern cooking. The seeds are used in spice blends, teas, and the wellness supplement market. So from a single planting, you've got 2 products to sell. Dried fenugreek sells for $15 to $30 per pound. Indian grocery stores, spice companies, and wellness brands are your primary buyers. In a world where most crops give you 1 revenue stream, fenugreek gives you 2, leaves and seeds, culinary and wellness. That's built-in business resilience from a single plant. Think of it as the dual income household of the herb world. Number 17, Stevia, the natural sweetener revolution. Zones 9 through 11 for perennial growth. Everywhere else, grow it as an annual. You already know stevia from those little green packets at the coffee shop. But here's what most people don't realize. The demand for whole leaf stevia is exploding. Health-conscious consumers don't want the processed powder anymore. They want the actual dried leaf to brew into tea or use in cooking. And almost nobody is growing whole leaf stevia domestically. Dried stevia leaves sell for $20 to $40 per pound. Health food stores, tea companies, and direct-to-consumer on platforms like Etsy. The process is as simple as it gets. Harvest the leaves, dry them, package them, sell them. No special processing, no expensive equipment. Sometimes the most profitable approach is the simplest one. Think of it as selling sweetness itself, without the sugar, without the guilt, and without the competition. Number 18. Sichuan pepper. The exotic spice worth more than gold per ounce. If you're in zones 6 through 9, you can grow Sichuan pepper trees right in your backyard. Now this is where the numbers start getting serious. Dried Sichuan peppercorns sell for $40 to $80 per pound. That's the highest price per pound of any plant we've covered so far. The flavor is unlike anything else. It creates this unique tingling, numbing sensation that Chinese and fusion restaurants are obsessed with. And as Sichuan cuisine continues to explode in popularity across America, the demand just keeps climbing. Most Sichuan pepper in the US is imported. Domestic growers are practically non-existent, which means if you start now, you're years ahead of the competition. The trees take a few years to mature, but once they start producing, they produce for decades. Think of it as planting a 40-year income stream that gets more valuable with time. Now what if you don't have full sun? What if you want to monetize the shady, forgotten corners of your yard where nothing else grows? Enter number 19. Gotu Kola, the cognitive enhancement cash crop. Zones 8 through 12. And if you've got shade and moisture, this one will reward you generously. Gotu Kola sits at the intersection of two mega trends happening right now: brain health and anti-aging. It's been traditionally used across Asia for centuries, and now the Western wellness market is finally catching on. Dried Gotu Kola sells for $30 to $60 per pound, and the demand is accelerating as nootropic supplements and brain health teas gain mainstream traction. But here's what makes Gotu Kola truly special for growers. It spreads as a ground cover. It thrives in partial shade, which means it grows in spaces where most other profitable herbs won't. Under trees, along borders, in those shady spots you thought were completely useless. That means you're monetizing space that would otherwise produce absolutely nothing. Think of it as turning your garden's blind spots into its most profitable corners. And finally, number 20. I saved this one for last because while it requires a bit of gentle, patient work, the payoff is unlike anything else on earth. The one I've been saving for you since the very beginning. Saffron. $10,000 per pound. Let that number sink in. Saffron is the most expensive spice on earth. More valuable per ounce than gold. And yes, you can grow this treasure right in your own backyard. If you're in zones 6 through 9, saffron crocus bulbs will naturalize and multiply year after year. They bloom in fall, when almost nothing else is producing, which means you've got zero competition at the farmer's market while everyone else's season is over. Now here's the real math. You don't sell saffron by the pound, you sell it by the gram. And a single gram of quality saffron goes for $10 to $15. A small raised bed of saffron crocus can produce a meaningful harvest. And that harvest is worth more per ounce than the gold sitting in a jewelry store. The harvest window is short. You handpick the red stigmas from each flower. It's delicate work. But when you're working with something worth $10,000 a pound, every single minute of that work pays off. Saffron isn't just a plant. It's a statement. It's proof that the most valuable things in this world sometimes grow quietly, right where you least expect them. Now here's where most videos end. But I'm not going to leave you with just a list. Here's exactly how to get started. Step 1. Pick 2 to 3 plants that match your zone. I just gave you every one. Step 2. Start small. A single raised bed or a few containers. You don't need acres. Step 3. Your first customers are closer than you think. Farmers markets on Saturday mornings, local restaurants always looking for fresh specialty herbs, Etsy for dried herbs, or even Facebook Marketplace. One grower I know started with just catnip and lemon balm at a Saturday market and was sold out by 10 a.m. So there you have it. 20 plants, real zones, real numbers, and a clear path to get started. But let me bring this full circle. Remember at the beginning, when I said most growers are sitting on a gold mine and don't even know it? Well, now you know. You've got the plants, you've got the zones, you know what they're actually worth per ounce, not just some inflated per pound number that sounds good in a title. And I told you I wasn't going to do what most plant profit videos do. Just throw a list at you and walk away. I hope I delivered on that. Because every single plant on this list came with a zone, a real price range, and a market where people are already buying. So here's what I want you to take away from this. You don't need 100 acres. You don't need expensive equipment. You need 3 things. The right plant for your zone, a small space to start, and the knowledge of who's already buying. A single raised bed of the right specialty herb can outperform an entire field of commodity crops. That's not hype. That's just how specialty markets work. You walked into this video wondering if you could make money from plants. You're leaving with 20 specific options. Growing zones for every single one. Real harvest numbers. 3 steps to get started. And stories from growers who already did it. That right there is how you start building real wealth from a small piece of land. Now it's your turn. Which plant are you starting with? Drop your zone in the comments right now, and I'll personally tell you the 3 best plants for your garden. And here's the real question. Are you team herbs, team adaptogens, or team exotic spices? Let me know. If this helped you see plants differently, hit that like button. And if you want more videos breaking down exactly how to turn small-scale growing into real income, subscribe. I've got a lot more coming. These plants were here all along, growing wild, waiting. The only difference now is that you know, and that knowledge is worth more than any single harvest.